Wow.
I don't know how we follow that.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Little chilly.
Yeah, I know. So, guys, today we're going to talk about customer loyalty. Thanks for joining us. I'm here with Matt. Matt, I'll introduce myself first, and then I'll hand over to you. But for those of you I don't know, my name is Nancy Winé. I lead Kroger Precision Marketing on the ad sales side. I'm super excited to reconnect with you today because customer loyalty is a real foundational component for Kroger. And Matt, why don't you share your role and anything interesting about? No, I'm just share your role and
we can do whatever.
While we're together. Yeah.
Sure. I lead digital experience for Johnson & Johnson's U.S. Skin Health business, and that's really a new team at J&J Consumer where we touch media, e-commerce, digital shelf, a lot of different areas of the business, and we really work closely with the brand teams, which is a really unique aspect of how our team operates. And retail media is a huge part of that, which I know we're going to get to, not to, kill the suspense here, but really interesting role. I've been at J&J for over 15 years and excited to be talking with you today.
Yeah, thanks. So is it fair to say you're a marketing guy, digital marketing guy?
Kind of.
Okay. But what's interesting, I noticed when we first connected, is that you started in finance, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, so how has your finance background influenced how you think about marketing?
Yeah, I spent about the first 6 years of my career in finance at J&J and then transitioned into marketing. And I've had different roles, digital, brand marketing. I say kind of because it's both. I use really both parts of my background in marketing today because that's really what marketing has turned into. The analytics and the creative are both equally important, and the way I've described it is it's sort of math and magic, that we need to really understand the creative, how to break through with consumers. That's always important, but now we have so many more tools and data to be able to really understand what's working, what's not, make better decisions, optimize. It's really served me well. I don't know that I would have mapped this out in my head initially. This was no grand plan, but it sort of worked out that way.
Yeah, it sounds like it's worked out really well for you. I add and subtract on my hands, and so that's probably why I'm not in marketing, maybe. But I love math and magic. I love that combination. And I think as analytics are more and more important, right, and closed loop measurement is more important, super critical to be able to add and subtract really well so that you can calculate your AROIs and IROIs versus what you're getting pushed over probably from different publishers, and you can really calculate it, someone like yourself. So that's good skill to have.
Not a bad skill to have, for sure.
That's awesome. So I know a lot of us are going to talk about some of the trends over the last 2 years. I mean, it's a huge influx of how customers are engaging with brands now versus what they did pre-pandemic, and I'm just really curious to understand, like, how are you thinking about it? How's J&J thinking about it? Like, how are you addressing the customer shifts and behaviors?
Yeah, I mean, there's been obviously massive shifts in a lot of different ways. I think some of the things that we've seen and we're really working to address is the shifts in expectations of consumers. We know that they are looking for solutions for them more than ever, and they're looking for things to be easy and to be able to press a button and have something delivered to them at any point in the consumer journey. So I think it's really forcing us to think about really the holistic consumer journey, from awareness, consideration, and conversion, and point of sale. But those things can happen so quickly. We've been trained by Uber to touch a button and a car shows up or dinner shows up. Netflix, Google, Amazon have trained us to be able to put anything in a search bar and buy within seconds. And that's just the environment we're in right now. And I think it complicates things in a lot of ways, but it's really a huge opportunity for us to really connect deeper with our consumers and to really, forge those closer connections and ultimately that loyalty.
Yeah, I agree. It's everything is on demand, right? And so you have to be able to have content and marketing to push the content in a really personalized, on-demand way.
Yep.
I know a passion area for you is all around personalization, and I did have a chance to go to Neutrogena.com, and I'm not saying this because you and I are together today. Actually, Neutrogena is one of my go-to brands.
Go on.
And thank you. So I want to talk a little bit about Skin 360, but before you tell everyone about the personalization and how it impacts, I want to tell you about my experience with Skin 360. Awesome. So I downloaded the app, and I'm going to tell you I was a little bit skeptical. because I really struggle with how to put on makeup and do anything with skin. I'm just not one of those people who are, it takes a lot of effort to look this good. I know that's shocking to many of you, but
this doesn't just happen, guys.
Right, this doesn't just happen. Exactly. But anyway, I used the app. It took my photo, it scanned my face, and you're not going to believe this, but it recommended the exact same toner and gentle cleanser that I currently use. It was
awesome.
spot 100% on. Can you believe it?
Thank God that worked out. Good night, everybody.
I am not making it up.
Awesome.
I was shocked. It was 100% accurate to my skin tone, and it's exactly what I use. I use it actually in the morning and in the night, which we can talk about that later because I don't know if that's exactly the right use
We can talk about that later.
Okay. But it's so personalized. It's really amazing. So I didn't do a great job of explaining how it works. So can you talk a little bit? How does it work?
Yeah.
How do you think it drives loyalty for customers?
Yeah, you did a phenomenal job explaining it because that's really your experience as a consumer is all that matters ultimately. How you encounter the tool, is it helpful, is it not? And it was for you, which is awesome. So the tool itself really, it scans your face and it's really comparing literally thousands of points of data. There's a tremendous amount of AI embedded into it to really analyze all the different features, lines, if you have dark circles, whatever's going on, and to really be able to recommend the right product for you to help you achieve your skincare goals. And what's so exciting about it is skincare is such a personal sort of category. No two people have the same skin, from tone to oily or dry. There's so many different factors to consider. So when consumers go to the aisle, they're encountering hundreds of options, and it can be overwhelming. So this is a tool that's really helping them make the right choice, because something I think marketers often forget to think about is that for most Americans, that purchase is a really big deal. They don't have infinite funds. They're not just, oh, this didn't work, I'm going to throw it out and buy something else. That's not how this works for most Americans today, unfortunately. But this is a way to really help them make a better decision, use their dollars with more confidence, get something that's going to really help them, and it's for them. There are millions of combinations and recommendations that could be spit out with this algorithm, and you found one that clearly it's, calibrated well for you. But if everyone were to do this, I'm willing to bet you'd see probably 30, 50 different recommendations, and that lets the consumer know that this is for them. This is not just me advertising. It's a tool. It's utility. And then I can sell you a product knowing, hey, I know what your problem is. I have a solution for you, and here's why, instead of buy me now.
Yeah, it really is a great tool. I'm not just saying it.
This is going so well, guys.
I'm not just saying that. I have a 15-year-old daughter, and I'll lay in tonight. We're gonna scan her face, and we're gonna buy a whole bunch of Neutrogena. I can already see where it's going to go. So
great.
Yeah, maybe I should buy a little J&J stock at some point before we start plugging the 360 tool. Yeah. Anyway, talk to me about content. Content, personalization, it all goes hand in hand. Yep. And when you think about marketing and content, how has content evolved for you? What are you doing uniquely around content? Yeah,
I think with content, as it relates to personalization, yes, it needs to be for them, but I think you have to go a level deeper and think, how does it matter? Is this something that's actually addressing a need? And really, again, starting with the consumer at the center, what are they really looking for? And I'll give a really good example that on our baby business, during the pandemic, I used to lead our marketing team on our baby business, and we were asking ourselves, what type of content we would put out there, and we were thinking, new parents aren't necessarily thinking about what's the best shampoo. They're asking, can my partner go to the delivery room with me? What can I expect? What are the questions I should be asking my physician? And we actually partnered with Meredith to create a guide that gave new parents and expecting parents tools around, these are the questions you should be asking. This is the type of things you should be expecting. We had, testimonials from nurses and parents who just went through that experience to help hopefully alleviate some of that stress. And we saw unbelievable results. And this wasn't, selling shampoo on day one, but it's really, how do we build that relationship and let our consumers know we see you, we're more than just a shampoo company or a brand, we're here to really support you as a person and really to create that deeper relationship. And I think that's what we have to think about is there are ways to connect with consumers, and we know as people see more and more messages every day, traditional just spamming people with brand messages doesn't work, and we need to think differently about how we're approaching our consumers.
That's great. I love the example of the mom content with new moms. I mean, that's super relevant, and it's super relevant. I have so many friends who, especially with first time baby during the pandemic, their questions were, they weren't product related, right? So you have to build the relationship first in order to get your brand top of mind. So yeah, super smart. How do you think about content in retail media? What role does content play in retail media? And obviously, selfishly, I want to understand, what's the role of retail media as you think about loyalty?
Yeah, retail media in general, and just e-commerce, the retail environment has just changed so dramatically in the last 2-3 years. This was already starting pre-COVID, so this is not a new trend, but like so many, it's been accelerated dramatically. And we know that consumers are spending more time on retail channels researching products. And I think it's, where are they on their consumer journey at that moment? So is it a new parent looking for registry recommendations? Is it, a how-to on how to apply a product? So when you're closer to purchase, your questions change and their mindset changes. And it's a really interesting opportunity to bring them along a journey and not just, okay, I'm going to give you our 15-second TVC. Can you please run it across your network? We could probably do that. It would probably work, but it's a missed opportunity. And I think we need to really elevate how we're thinking about retail media as a strategic opportunity to connect with our consumers, knowing how much attention is moved there, how much influence is moving there as e-com sales skyrocket. They're going to be fulfilling in different ways, and if we can deliver an awesome recommendation, it's really easy for them to click buy and either pick it up curbside or have it delivered. It's kind of a no-brainer, but we're not there yet. But I think we're sprinting towards that place.
Yeah, that's a good segue into just e-commerce in general, right? So in order to drive customer loyalty, in order to drive brand affinity, you have to be really best in class in e-commerce. For us at Kroger, how we've redefined loyalty has really gone from things like couponing and how do we create this loyal 60 million household database, which many years ago was about incentivizing through couponing, to much, much more meaningful content, much more meaningful kind of programs like membership programs. We launched Boost several months ago. It's the lowest cost delivery program for groceries. And for us, it's also a way to help consumers during this time. We link it back to fuel points. Mm-hmm. So any customers who are actually signing up for delivery through Kroger can also double their fuel points through Boost. And that is a way that we can really help our customers, especially during this time, right? Just make their dollar go a lot further and help them feed their families. So I'd love to understand, again, just how does e-commerce play into retail media, and how does it play into your loyalty strategy? Yeah,
I mean, it's oftentimes in some ways it's the hardest, some ways it's the easiest way to, sell to somebody, because it's so easy to fulfill in that moment. E-commerce is just top of mind for everyone, probably everyone in every industry. That's not, I'm not discovering America here. E-commerce is important, but I think its role has shifted to be more, people have had to get used to doing things a certain way in the last 2 years, and the data bears it out. Those behaviors have stuck. We're not seeing a drop-off. We continues to grow, so we have to think about what that journey looks like. And for us, it's, the content piece of it's important. What are they looking for at that moment of purchase? But also our innovation strategy. What types of products we're putting online? Can it ship? If you are selling something that's heavy, that's something we have to think about. How do we make those economics work? Getting back to the math part, but it's not a niche part of the consumer journey anymore. We just know that. I don't have the stat. I should have this, but overall e-com sales are approaching 20% of the total industry, total retail sales right now, and it's the majority of people are buying things that way. It may not be every purchase, but most people are doing that, and it can't be ignored.
And I think one of the things you just said is really interesting to me. It's like the link is not only about the content, right? Having relevant content, being at the right place, but the operational piece is super critical, right? So if it's one thing to have great content, it's another thing to be able to drive it all the way through execution, so that by the time you've built that relationship, you can either ship the item, deliver it. Everything has to go hand in hand now, because the customer expectation is so high. You have to have the right product at the right time, and it better be at their doorstep pretty quickly, oftentimes less than 2 hours. So, that's a great point about just kind of how you have to bring it all the way through the operational side as well. I think my last question is just really around customer service, and that's coming from a lot of things coming out of the pandemic. One of the things we've seen across the board is, labor shortages, and what we've tried to do at Kroger and Kroger Precision Marketing is just really improve the customer experience. So again, whether they're walking into a store or getting the item delivered at home, that for us, loyalty, maintaining that customer is making sure they have a great customer experience. And we're doing creative ways in order to just meet that demand right now, given the challenges on labor. What are you seeing in your business with J&J, and how are you helping to meet customer demand and customer service?
Yeah, I think it's obviously different. We're not a retailer. We're brands. You're a retailer, but I think the principles are similar, where people want to have a good experience with wherever they're shopping or whatever they're doing, and the reasons are similar. Consumers have tons of choices on where they shop, where they spend their grocery dollars or their healthcare dollars. Tons of choices, drugstores, online, whatever. Consumers have tons of choices in brands, and it's a really good thing for consumers that there's a lot of good, safe products in the marketplace in 2022. It's not, like 50 years ago where quality was not necessarily an assumption. So as a brand, we have to consider that consumers do have choices, and we need to win their loyalty every day by providing them more than just a product. We need to provide them with that positive experience to help them pick the right facial product from Neutrogena, to get them the information they're looking for. If they're looking for, dosing information for children's Tylenol, your child's not feeling well, can we get them that information quickly, easily, so they can make a safe decision for their child? That's how you build loyalty, through that customer experience sort of lens. I think that's ultimately what's going to separate the good from the bad brands, retailers, you name it. Retail is not dead, bad retail is. And brand, people aren't going to all of a sudden go to private label or brands they don't know. They're going to go to the brands that provide them with a positive experience. So yes, there's a lot of buzzy brands or startups that you see all over the internet because the barriers to entry are so low. But the ones that have bad experiences, you're never going to go back to. I've ordered products, I won't name the brands, but if you have a bad experience with one of these brands, you're never going back. Why would you? I don't have a relationship with them. But the brands that create a relationship, provide you with that good experience, I will come back to, and same thing for retailers. This is playing out right now.
Yeah, that's well said. I think the brand experience is defined not only by, obviously, the equity, the content, also the delivery, whether it's retail or direct. But I think it's well said. The expectation for customers is super high. You have to hit the mark at every single touch point. So, perfect. You want to open it up to questions?
Sure.
All right, cool. Guys, do you guys have any questions for us?
Aside from, do we scan our faces now or later? When does that happen? I've got a microphone if anyone is ready for questions. They're all scanning. Look at them now on the app. What should we do? See? Scan. Going on? Yeah. There you go. How about show of hands? Who else has utilized this before? Has anyone already scanned their face? Okay. As you you're a trailblazer with the innovators, right?
There was that app prior that would scan your face and show you how you would look, how old you would look in 30 years. Is there some sort of hesitancy to use that app because of some sort of hack or stealing information, seeing your face?
Great question. Did you hear that? Okay?
Yeah. I think with that, everything we do starts from a place of privacy and safety. So that is always, the same way we develop our products with the highest scientific standards, same thing would be true with everything we do from a technology perspective. But I think it's a great question. That's something we have to really address and make sure that consumers understand the links we're going to. That's, especially today, couldn't be more important. You don't want to risk any sort of information loss or things like that. So I think it's a great question. But I personally have not heard of there being hesitancy of usage on that, but it's a great question.
Are you a projector or you need the mic?
I can project.
All right, there we go.
So we just had a speaker from TikTok. For consumer brands like Neutrogena, TikTok seems to be a platform that would be understandable. But for J&J's other products that are more industry professionals, targeted, regulated, how do you see TikTok and platforms like it moving into that space?
It's a great question. For anyone who didn't hear, great projection, by the way, but how do you see platforms like TikTok for, Neutrogena feels like a great fit. We're on TikTok, so yes, we are. But for maybe more of the professional-facing brands, the stat was just communicated in the last session, over 1 billion users on the platform. So essentially everybody, I think it's 180 million in the US, if I'm not mistaken. That's the last stat I saw. So most people are on the platform. I think you have to think about how you show up there. You're probably not going to do a dance duet with a healthcare professional. Maybe you do. I don't know. I'm not saying you couldn't do it. But yeah, I mean, tone, your brand, how you want to show up, who are you talking to, what is that consumer? Are they there? I mean, maybe if I'm trying to connect with a key opinion leader, I don't know. I work in skin health, so yes, my consumer is absolutely there, and we are there. But you ask yourself, are they there? What are they engaging in? What's important to them? And if it makes sense, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. You can't be everything to everyone, but I think we're at a point where it's becoming pretty ubiquitous, and it's at least worth a conversation, and then maybe you decide yes or no from there.
We have a couple more. Want it? See?
No, I can just talk.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Matt. I'm Melissa from Best Buy. The question that I have is you talk about your relationship with the customer from a brand perspective. How do you view your relationship in terms of you owning it at a brand level versus via the retailer from like a marketing perspective?
Yeah, awesome question. By the way, Best Buy is one of the examples of getting it right from a customer service perspective. So love buying electronics there.
You guys are just teeing it up for each other.
I mean,
today.
literally, it's like my go-to example outside of Kroger, of course. But as far as electronics and home goods, bought an oven there. True story. Supply shortages. I was getting a new oven, couldn't get one, and the associate was so helpful. This is in the warehouse. I'll get it to you Tuesday. Awesome. For loyalty. So, but the question of the equity and connection with the consumer from, a retailer, if it's from the Kroger voice, Best Buy voice, or from a brand, that's getting more and more important. I think it's a really, important consideration for a brand to think about. And I think the importance there happens at the partnership level, so that we're not throwing things over the fence to one another and really looking at our relationship in media as a true partnership. Consumers don't necessarily think, oh, this is from retailer, this is from brand. They're going to see the message, they're going to say, oh, it's a message from Neutrogena. They probably don't know the difference. So more than ever, it's important that you're at least coordinating those messages. It's not from a, left turn. You're hearing one thing from retail, one thing from a national level. So just talking to one another. It's like I don't have a high-tech answer for you. It's like talk, and then make sure that you're aligned on the same brief and communications objectives, because what's good for the brand is good for the retailer for selling more stuff. So just talk to each other. But yeah, it's growing exponentially, and I suspect this will be something we talk more about in the future, in a future panel.
Piggybacking on that, obviously to your point, alignment is clearly key in the one. But I'm curious, do you ever actually see sometimes where you kind of want it to be feel a little different, right? Whether it's coming from you or the retailer, kind of leaning in more or less?
Absolutely. I mean, there are different points on the consumer journey where a consumer needs to hear different things. We traditionally think about this from like, who's the voice? And it's like, is it a brand or is it a creator? But I think it's an interesting, could it come from a retailer of, hey, what's the credible thing that the retailer could be saying that is different than what I could say? So a retailer could say, hey, this is our most shopped recipe of the month. Come get and they're like, oh, okay, that's something that they would have insight to that a brand. I don't sell any food, so I don't know why I use that example. So, but here are the top trending, categories for us at the retailer in our beauty aisle at Kroger. Here's what consumers are really looking for, and here are the reviews we're hearing, which is a very conversion-focused sort of message. So I think that makes sense to come from that voice, and probably a lot more credible than me talking about myself. Of course I'm going to say good things about my brand. It's my brand. Having somebody else say nice things can be, to put it really simply, can be effective.
Any other questions in the audience? Good, I appreciate you helping us keep on time. Okay, one more round of applause for them!